So, today we welcome to our spotlight Cherisse Mike. She will talk about herself. I am Jackie Becksford Henriquez, a co founder of the Alliance, which is a group of individuals within the athletic department who have come together to work towards promoting an anti racism atmosphere in our UW community. So I won't take up the floor anymore. Cherise, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from to start with.
Sure. So, like you said, my name is Cherisse Mike. I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago. So, I came to Canada straight from Trinidad in 2013, not having ever experienced the winter or seen snow before. And it's been almost 8 years, and I'm still here. So, very happy to be here and very happy to chat with you today.
It's so funny. When you started talking just now and you
Mhm.
said Trinidad and Tobago, you
Mhm.
sounded so Trinidadian. How
Well,
have
I'd like to hope so.
but I know, have you found that, in when you speak here in Canada, you've changed your accent at all, when you're dealing with the public?
100%. Code switching is very much a thing for me. And I think I learned about that pretty early on. I mean, in high school, obviously they tell you about these things. Like we did communication studies, so we knew that it was a thing in theory. But one of my first roles on campus was actually working in the cafeteria of Village One. And I remember having to like ask the student what they wanted. And she just couldn't understand me. So I think I was saying like tomatoes or something, and she's like, tomato. So I learned very early on to sort of speak a little bit slower, speak a little bit more monotone, because Trinis are known for their sing-song voice, apparently. I mean, I don't get it, but apparently that's how we sound. So yes, definitely my accent has changed. I think I'm very fortunate that I'm still very close to a lot of my friends in Trinidad, and we talk very, very often. So it's easy for me, I think, to go back into my regular Trini speak. Um, my role on campus deals with a lot of international students. So I deal with not only students from the Caribbean and not only domestic students, but people from all over the world. So I just find it easier, I guess, to have a more general way of speaking, just so that everyone I'm communicating with can have the best possible chance to understand me. But I know for a fact that my Trini creeps in ever so often, which I'm glad for and thankful for sure.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that because if I speak to a Jamaican, you just fall into it. You don't even think about
Yep,
it.
yep,
And,
for
when I talk to my swim team, as you said, you do it so you could be understood.
sure.
Well, in your information I got, you said you were a member of the cheerleading team. How did that happen? Did you do that in Trinidad before you came? I mean, what got you there?
So much to my mother's chagrin, I was a very wild child. So I was one of those like flipping off the couches and being upside down on my bed just all the time. So I used to do gymnastics as a child, and then like getting into high school, when academics became more important, I sort of dropped it, but still sort of kept that energy inside of me. So then when I started UW, it was not a thought that, oh, I would go into cheerleading. It was just more that after my first term, I was looking for something more. I was looking for something that dealt with more students who were not Caribbean. I was looking for something active. And there was someone else in my building who was on the cheerleading team. So I was like, oh, let me give it a try. So that's how cheerleading sort of happened. I mean, unfortunately for me, I think the cheerleading team was very much a cheerleading team. So it was filled with a lot of people who had like come up through their middle school and high schools like doing cheerleading. And it was more about refining skills that they had already learned versus like teaching new skills. I was fortunate enough that I was like tall and I was strong. So I was good as a base and I could throw people in the air. But I think for my gymnastics background, what I really wanted to develop was my tumbling skills. And there just was not a space, it was not the place for doing that. So I think I stayed in cheerleading maybe about 2 years, but I did not feel like I had grown a lot in my skills, like in tumbling in that 2 years. So I mean, I'm glad that I did it. I think I got to meet a lot of new people and do things I probably would not have done if I wasn't in cheerleading. But just for my own personal growth, it was not the best place for me to achieve the goals that I had set out for myself. And also just being an international student, I knew after seeing that the way for me to grow those skills would have been for me to actually join like an external cheerleading gym. And those are not cheap and not easy to get to from living in Waterloo and not having a car and stuff. So again, very grateful for the experience, but it did not turn out to be what I initially wanted it to be or hoped it to be. So,
yeah, I'm sure you have gained from the experience. And as you said at the start, you met a whole new set of people within the Waterloo community.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, so that you can educate me as well. In 2014, you got the University of Waterloo's President's Scholarship. What's that about?
Honestly, it's a scholarship for high academics, for international students when you're doing your degree here at Waterloo. I mean, I put it because I think I had to put something in the line, but it's just a scholarship for high academics. I got it that 1 year, and I was very grateful for because it's a monetary scholarship, of course. Very grateful for, but yeah, it's just a scholarship.
It's, you obviously did very well. Is it something you applied for, or is it something you're just given?
It's something you're just given based on your GPA. So I think you had to have over 85, I believe. And back when I started, I think everyone comes into university, with this sense of, oh, I can do this. I'm so smart. I can get all of this. So I think that's what happened in my first year. And then life happened after that. So that was my one, I think, strictly academic scholarship that I got for my entire UW career before life happened.
Well, so, yeah. Many can't say they got it once. What I don't think we mentioned, what did you actually study for your undergraduate?
Yeah, so my undergrad was in economics with a minor in management studies. I had done economics in high school. My high school teacher was the most amazing human ever. She taught me to really, really love economics. I came into Waterloo thinking that was what I had to do. That's what I enjoyed. That's the only thing I wanted to do. There was really nothing else that sort of, held my heart like that. I mean, I was also interested in French, but econ was really like my number one. And then sort of halfway through my degree, I was just like, this is not going so great anymore. I feel like I learned that studying econ sort of branches off into two different ways. Like you either go into policy making or you go into like data analysis, based on years and years of information and all that kind of thing. And neither of those sort of branches really interested me, after second year, halfway through. But at that point as well, I didn't really know if I wanted to switch, what I would have switched to. And, after doing half of it, like, did it really make sense to switch? And also acknowledging that any degree from the University of Waterloo is competitive. I didn't need to stay in economics, even though I had an economics degree. So I finished it. It was fine. I really didn't hate it. I just knew I didn't want to pursue it as a career after a while. So yeah, that's how that degree sort of started and finished. But I think I'm fortunate enough that I sort of realized that it wasn't really where I wanted to end up halfway through. So then I found ways to leverage, other opportunities on campus. So that's when I started really volunteering a lot, doing lots of programming for international students. So I think that's where I developed my desire and my passion for international student programming, or even just student programming in general, which is where my full-time career is right now. So I think I'm very fortunate that I got the opportunity to sort of learn those skills while in undergrad, even though that wasn't strictly my degree.
Okay. So part of this spotlight is because it's Black History Month. Um, what do you think of Black History Month?
So I definitely think that Black people from North America and Black people from the Caribbean have different views on what it means to be Black. So I remember hearing a professor one time say, like from the Caribbean as well, saying that, she didn't really know she was Black until she came to North America. And I feel like that made sense to me because growing up in Trinidad, we're so diverse, so multiracial. Like being Black was not really so much at the forefront of my identity. I was Trini, I was Caribbean, I was a convent girl. Um, so those things sort of influenced my identity more. And then coming to Canada and realizing that I was judged solely based on how I looked, which North Americans see you're Black and that's it. And only after when you say, oh, you're Caribbean, then they say, oh, well, you have to be Jamaican if you're Caribbean. So then there was a bunch of other levels before it got to who I really identified myself as. And I think I don't want to say I was confused, but it definitely got me thinking a lot more about what it was to be Black in the Caribbean and what it was to be Black in a North American setting. And I think for right now, or at least before, I think I used to rebel a little bit against it because I kept felt like people were identifying me or putting me in a box that I never put myself in. But more, I just think it's a time to acknowledge and accept and appreciate, some of the things that people who look like me have done historically, the strides they have made, the accomplishments that they have done, and just accept and acknowledge that for what it is. And I think it's also it's a good thing, I think, for me to see some more of the similarities between, Black North American or just Black in general, and not so quickly to try to segregate or differentiate between, Black Caribbean and Black North American. I think it's fine to just appreciate, Blackness, whatever Blackness is, and also acknowledge the diversity that is Blackness. So for me, especially like being in this North American setting, I think I appreciate more Blackness for what it is as a blanket, and just appreciate, everything that people who look like me, what they have done, what they continue to do. And even for myself personally, trying to continue to educate people around me that Blackness does not have to mean just this one thing. And that even myself as a Black Caribbean person can continue to make efforts to, make life or the surroundings or whatever situation I'm in better for the next person who looks like me. They may not have the same background as me, but they sort of look like me, and they're, by the wider world, they are viewed the same way as me. So anything that I can do to sort of make this life a bit easier for them, I think is really, really important. And so that's what Black History Month means to me, just remembering or placing a spotlight on, you know, Blackness in all its wondrous glory and all the achievements that we've made and the things that we've done throughout life.
I'm just laughing because, so much of what you've been through, I went through like 30 years ago when I went to university in England and North America. And I think what comes across to me is that as a Black Caribbean woman, you know who you are. And that's how I think of it. But you actually explained it very well there for me. If you were, and you must do this in your work, talking to a student coming into UW, what would you advise them to do to make their experience, say, as good as you have had?
I think one of the reasons that I am where I am today is because I saw people like me doing amazing things in all aspects of their lives. So when I started, I was part of international orientation, and that brought together students from all over the world before like regular orientation started. And that gave me a community from day one, which I think I still have friends from that group way back before school started that I'm still friends with today. And then moving on, I think I found a home in the Association of Caribbean Students where I saw upper years who may not necessarily have been from Trinidad, but upper year Caribbean students who were doing well academically, they were in sports, they were involved in different things. And then I also branched out, like I said, to the cheerleading team where I was with people who were not necessarily Caribbean, but other international students, other Canadian students. So I feel like I surrounded myself with so many different opportunities to learn, to find my community, to find my path, to find my family or the people, here at UW. So to someone coming in, I think especially if you were like me and had never seen winter before, never have been away from family for so long, it's I cannot lie and say that being at UW is easy. There were definitely some hard spots, some hard times, some hard periods, some hard things that you have to go through. But I think finding your community is so important. And seeing people be successful sort of inspires you to be successful as well. Like you see that you can do it, it can be done. It can be done by someone who looks like you, who may have had the same background like you, who's just overcome a lot of those obstacles. So for someone who is just starting their UW journey, I would try to tell them as soon as possible, anything you're even remotely interested in, join that group, join that community. As you go along, you get to meet so many different people and you realize that there are so many more similarities than differences. And I think it only helps you to broaden your mind and learn and be surrounded by people who are on similar paths to you, and also seeing people who are just a little bit further along the path. So if that person got to that point, you can get to that point too. So yeah, I think that definitely kept me going and helped me continue. And I think life is so much better when you have people to share it with. So definitely join all those communities and make your interests work for you, for sure.
Okay, I'm putting you on the spot here because this is not anywhere.
Okay.
So the Alliance, which is the group from initially within the athletic department, and there's about 26 members of, all cultures, colors, types. If you were to give us a piece of advice about getting into our UW community, and it can be on absolutely anything, because we're at the stage where we are trying to work to move towards creating a more equitable society, starting with just our athletic department. What piece of advice would you give?
I think you guys should focus a lot more on the individual connections that the members of the current alliance have. I know I heard about this alliance from a couple different people. So I heard about it from Sadiq, I heard about it from Christella, who I randomly met in MC one time a couple years ago when he was first starting on campus and, looking for a way to get to the pack. But I think especially these days, there's so many like general calls out, oh, like join this. But I really think that it's the one-on-one personal connections that really motivate people to, continue doing the work or to join groups that are doing the work. So, and like you said, you've been here, 4 years, and you're still getting to know a lot of the things that are happening on campus. And I would like to believe that is part of being a part of the alliance as well. Like you're getting to meet a bunch of different people from all over campus who you would not have met just by being in athletics, being the swim coach. I think you need to focus a lot more on the individuals that are part of the alliance and their individual circles as well. I mean, I think I benefited a lot in my undergrad from the one-on-one personal connections I made, volunteering, being part of student-led groups and student-run events. And I know for me personally, those one-on-one connections are definitely what made the difference between, doing something and not doing something, or, joining something that was more general versus saying, oh, hi, I have a friend, or this one person recommended this to me. So for me, I think that would make the difference. And I think that has made the difference between uh with my interest in the alliance. It was because, Sadiq was like Cherisse, and because Chris was like Cherisse, and then they got Coach DA to be like Cherisse, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it, I'll get involved, because I think, especially at UW, especially during this time, there are so many ways to get involved. There are so many things you can do. Everyone is trying to find some way to include somebody else. So it especially for racialized people on campus, we feel like so much is expected of us. Everyone is looking to us to do all of these things, to make all these grand changes. And I can acknowledge that sometimes it's very, very overwhelming, but maybe it just takes that one person to be like Cherisse, and then I'm like, okay, sure. So yeah.
But I knew you were very popular, because when they said to me, okay, you have to interview Cherisse, I was like, okay. And then, as you said, all these people kept coming in and saying, yes, yes, Cherisse. I was like, okay, okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to cut the recording, but we'll still keep chatting for a minute. But thank you for your time
No
here
problem.
today. All
No
right.
problem at all. No problem at all.